Most people believe that they need to sell a ton of books after they publish their children's books in order to go full-time as a children's book author. But here's the truth, and nobody talks about this. You don't need to rely on book sales in order to go full-time as a children's book author. And who am I to tell you this? I am somebody who published 3 books over the last 3 years, and I've grown my business reliably, sustainably, and all without the use of ads or going viral in order to turn this into my full-time job. It has taken hours upon hours of diligent work, repetitive, boring actions, but have led me to this point in my career where I am officially full-time. And in this video, I'm going to detail exactly how I did it so you can replicate it yourself. And on this YouTube channel, I only talk about children's book marketing, publishing, and scaling your business sustainably and organically. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and subscribe down below so you don't miss a new video. And if we haven't met before, hi, my name is Harley, and I'm an award-winning self-published children's book author and illustrator. And like I said in the beginning, after 3 books and 3 years of persistent work, I have turned publishing children's books into my full-time job. And if you ever need a strategy call with somebody who knows what they're talking about, is just a few steps ahead of you and would love to help you, you can go in the description and book a one-on-one strategy call with me. I can guide you as to how to market your books and sell more books without using ads, and also help you with your social media, help you with your overall marketing strategy, as well as come up with different ideas that you can implement to make more money as a children's book author. And in this video, I'm going to break down 4 different key lessons that you can take with you to replicate my strategy to becoming full-time to make this work for you. So this first part that I'm going to talk about is the misconception. And the misconception is that when you're a self-published children's book author, you're not going to sell very many copies, and it's going to be very hard for you to scale without the use of ads, let alone letting this become your full-time job. Like, a lot of people think it's just not possible. But what they're thinking is they're thinking about that normal statistic. That normal statistic is that most self-published books only sell 250 copies in its lifetime. And when you're thinking about this statistic, it will absolutely trap you into thinking that you need to fully rely on book sales. Otherwise, how else are you going to do it? You're only going to think about the Amazon algorithms. You're only going to think about virality. You're only going to think about your competition. You're going to think about all those different aspects, and those aspects are only going to limit you. If I thought to myself the only way that I could become a full-time children's book author is by only relying on book sales, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today telling you what I did to make this happen. If I had those limiting beliefs, I would have never even put in the reps to get to this point. And in this day and age, there are so many different things that we can do to provide income to us that are not just book sales. And yes, you can still call yourself a children's book author even if you're doing different things to make money. And that is a trap that a lot of people fall into, which I get it. I totally understand, because nobody talks about this stuff. Well, at least not until you met me. So don't let those misconceptions limit you, because it's all in your mindset. If I hadn't changed my mindset into believing my limiting beliefs and letting that lower my expectations for what my life and my business will look like, I truly would not be here filming this video. And I don't want that to happen to you, because truly, if this can happen for me, it can happen for you. Which leads me into part 2, which is the reality of being a full-time children's book author. So the reality is to become a full-time children's book author, you're not just relying on book sales like I mentioned before, but you need to think of a different system that you can create that will help provide you income to free up your time, even if it's just at a side hustle level in the beginning. That's how I started. I started just doing different things to provide income for me so that way I could lower my work hours at my full-time job, until I got to the point where my side hustle money was making me enough money to completely quit my full-time job and be fully able to go all in on my children's book author business. Because when you're trying to go full-time, you are building a business. That is the only way that you're going to make it work. It's not going to be some passive income streams from Amazon sales and, you're just going to rake in the money that way. Do not think like that, because you're not going to get very far with that thinking. You need to think about it as a business and how a business owner would operate and structure their business for scalability and growth, as well as being sustainable. Because you don't want to go full-time on something that you can't completely rely on. So you need to think about stabilizing your foundations and your basis, and that is not through just selling books. You need to think in terms of a brand, in terms of your audience, and thinking about your multiple revenue streams in order to make it happen, which I talk about in this next part, which is part 3, and that is your multiple income streams to full-time business. So this is the magic ingredient. This is the secret formula, if you will, to scaling your business to full time. You need to think about the different ways that you're going to sell your books, because even though I say you don't need to rely on books, the basis of your business is selling books. So selling books should be a big priority for you, because you know when you sell more books, you touch more lives and you touch the hearts of young kiddos. And that is why we do what we do in the first place. So always thinking about generating more book sales, but thinking outside the box, thinking outside of Amazon. And there are a couple different ways that you can do this. So the first way that you can do this is through in-person events. So whether that be craft shows, festivals, in-person markets, as well as like school visits or like farmers markets. That is how I actually make the bulk of my book sales, is through in-person events. It is tried and true revenue for me. I know if I go to an event and I've picked out the events over the years, then I know are going to convert into really good book sales for that day. So I always do in-person sales, and I highly recommend to you to start dabbling into that. And if you're interested in learning about like selling in person, go to this video right here. I talk about everything you need to know when you're a beginner selling at in-person events. I'll also have that video linked down below in the description, so that way you can finish this video and then go to that one. Another way that you can sell more books without relying on social media or Amazon is through wholesale or consignment. So this is my second biggest driver of book sales, and that is through stocking my books at different stores. So that's small independent bookstores, some boutiques, some coffee shops, you name it. And this is like a really great way to get recurring book sales, because the storefront has its own customer base. And when you stock your books in their store, you have full access to that customer base, because those customers go to their store and they will see your books on the shelves. It's also a great way for like marketing and advertising too, because when they see your books on the shelves, they'll become more familiar with you and your brand and your characters. And in terms of marketing, all marketing professionals know that it takes 7 touch points for people to trust your product. So touch points means like they've seen your book cover before, they've heard about you before, they've seen your book again and again at different places. Diversifying where you sell your books will ultimately help you in the end. And then branching off of book sales, because this is how I make the majority of my income in order to go full time. So you need to think about what you can do for active income. So when I say active income, I mean, what are services that you can provide for other people so you can make money off of them and helping them? So I started doing this by becoming a virtual assistant. So from being a self-published children's book author, I have taken so many courses. I've spent thousands of dollars in those courses, in that education, in that training that has helped me level up my skills to a point where I know what I'm doing and I can help other small business owners with these exact same things that I learned, but just in a different capacity. So I started by pitching my services as a virtual assistant to different Facebook groups. And these were Facebook groups that I was already a part of. I already bought the course to be in it. I was already part of that community. And especially since we learned the same curriculum, they knew that, okay, I could do exactly what I need her to do in order to grow my business. That is what the business owner was thinking. So I got my first 3 virtual assistant clients from just posting in Facebook groups. I got them completely for free. I didn't do any sales calls. I did like 1 Zoom discovery call, but that was easy. I was just talking to her and like asking her like what she needs from me, how she would feel most comfortable working with me. And then we talked about like payment, invoicing, all that. And you don't even need a portfolio for this. Like I always thought that I needed this, and this in order to be a virtual assistant. But as it turns out, if you have the credentials and you have the results, it doesn't need to be packaged in a portfolio in order for you to land a client. They just need to see that you've done it before and you've done it successfully. And another thing that I did to trade my active time for money was to be a professional social media manager. So from being a self-published children's book author, I made it my goal to get really good at organic content creation and becoming really consistent and growing my Instagram and learning everything about anything with these social media platforms. And by doing so, I was telling other people about it, like my coworkers, or my coworkers followed me on Instagram. And then one of my coworkers told her other coworker, who is a small business owner, that I have a really good Instagram and that I've grown it and I have an engaged community and I could probably do the same for her. So that is how I landed another client. So get your gears going as to the different ways that you can branch out and generate income without just book sales. Think about selling your services. Think about selling your expertise. If you want to plan pop-up birthday parties because you're a mom of 4 and you're an excellent party planner and you're really good with kids, you could do that too. There are literally so many different things that you could possibly do. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, that doesn't mean you're a full-time children's book author. You make most of your money not from book sales, so how can you call yourself a full-time children's book author? I can, because to me, I would have never learned these skills without being a children's book author in the first place. And I work the most on my children's book author business. So even though I don't make most of my money from the book sales, I still generate income from actively being a children's book author, if that makes sense. And that goes back to the whole limiting beliefs thing. Don't do that to yourself. You're just going to sabotage it. And you're not actually going to get to the point of being a full-time children's book author where the book sales are providing a lovely life for you. You're going to take baby steps to get to that point. So your first level might be just publishing your children's book. Then your second level would be selling your children's book in person. And then your third level would be providing services. And then your fourth level would be selling digital products or courses. And then your fifth level would be, I have enough book sales that I can comfortably get rid of those other income streams. So you need to think about as stepping stones to get to your ultimate goal. And that is the basis of part 4, which is the path to full-time. You have to build up these little stepping stones. You have to work your way up to it. You need to build systems that you'll always have. You need to build an audience. You can do that through a community. You can do that through an email list. You can do that through a Facebook group. It doesn't need to be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. It doesn't need to be that. You could start a blog, and that is where your audience is. Then you add multiple revenue streams gradually. You start testing around with like what you can sell and what will actually help people. And then when you've gotten good enough at providing that one thing, you could tack on another service or expand on it, and so on and so on, but making sure to keep it sustainable and not to overwhelm yourself or drive yourself absolutely insane with how busy you are. And then when you get to a point where you're making enough money, you can reinvest your profit into your children's books. You can write and illustrate and publish a new children's book. You can add a different way of selling them. If you wanted to dabble in ads, you could. I don't recommend it, but you can do whatever you want. You could hire a professional to build a website for you to further market your children's books. The possibilities are truly endless, and I want you to dabble and try and see what you are able to accomplish. Because being a self-published children's book author and just even taking that first step to publishing a book was the biggest learning curve. It is the biggest learning curve, and a lot of people don't understand that. And we have developed skills from just trying to get our lovely stories out into the world. So make the most of it and let it help you get to fulfilling your dreams. And if you don't want to feel alone in this journey, I have something really exciting that I think you're really going to like. I have a free Skool community completely dedicated to self-published children's book authors. In this community, I provide free exclusive trainings. I provide community, you can ask questions, you get direct support from me and other fellow children's book authors if you ever need help. And I drop these free exclusive workshops and trainings once a month. So even when you're just in the free Skool community, you are getting massive value and a lot of help from just being in this lovely little Skool community. It will be the first link in the description for you to join. We are at 120 members and counting, and I would be so happy if you could join us in there. I also have some really fun free stuff coming up in that Skool community really soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you're just getting started and you haven't published your book yet, I highly recommend that you go and watch this next video, because it talks about the 10 things I wish I would have known before I self-published my children's books. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a new video.